Hi, I'm Drew D'Amelia, and today I have something special for you guys. Due to an overwhelming amount of comments on my Moana review asking for me to do this, I've decided to do a comparison of Moana and Frozen. In fact, can I see a fun little display of all the comments popping up over my face? Oh wait, there weren't any comments! But fuck you, I'm gonna do this video anyway, and let me just say, it was difficult. I had a lot of trouble coming to the opinions I am coming to right now. In fact, I'm still partially feeling some things out. But I suppose we can start with animation, and obviously the animation of both Frozen and Moana, very good, very outstanding. It's Disney at the top of their game. I know it's CG, but I really don't mind. You can get some really cool ice effects like in Frozen, or really cool water effects like in Moana. But if I had to pick one, I really do think point goes to Moana, because Moana just had some creative flair with their animation. I mean, the hermit crab scene alone was really, really cool, but then on top of that, you have the stuff with the island monster, I guess you could call it, and the coconut creatures. There was just a lot of really inventive stuff I was seeing being expressed in animation, and Frozen had some stuff here and there, but it never really felt like it took it to the same level that Moana did. Plus, Moana, in terms of colors, I mean, so Frozen had a lot of white, and I love white supremacy and all that, but Moana just did a much better job of using all sorts of different colors on the spectrum, in my opinion. So I think point goes to Moana there. But why don't we move on over to comedy? Which did I think was better? I'm gonna go with Frozen on this one. Here's why. I thought both movies were funny, but I felt Frozen just had more subtle humor and some more interesting humor too. I feel like a lot of the humor just kind of came from the characters and came from interplay between the characters. Two things that I remember standing out to me from Frozen happen to involve Olaf both times. One is when Olaf is in the middle of his song singing about how great summer is, and then just before he's about to get to the last note of the song, you have Kristoff go, we should ruin his dream. I know I'm paraphrasing, don't kill me, Frozen fans, but I paraphrase for a reason. You get the joke, right? And I thought it was really funny that just as the song was getting to its ultimate point, you have a character that just wants to tear it down completely, and I thought that was really funny, really smart. Maybe that's what I'm looking for, is smart humor. You also had the subtlety of Olaf is just waddling along on his merry way, and then he has an icicle go through his chest, and in a completely innocuous voice he goes, "Oh, I've been impaled." I thought that was really interesting and really smart. As I was saying, I don't feel that many of the jokes in Moana really came close to that. I feel maybe when Maui was urinating into the water, I'm like, oh, okay, there's something clever about that, but I don't know, with the exception of maybe the interplay between Maui and his own tattoo, I just don't know that the humor ever really got to the level that it did in Frozen. I think it's close, I really do. And I'm sure I'll notice a few more jokes when I see Moana again, but I think I gotta give the point to Frozen on this one. So, we're looking all tied up right now. What can I go on to? How about a theme? Something to take from these movies? Here's the thing. I love Moana's message of empowerment, that, hey, even if it's not popular, if you have a dream, you should go for it. Fuck if you get ostracized. Just do what you want, because Moana can, and Moana did. Yeah! I like that. I know it's a bit trite, but I like it. I think Frozen's was more interesting. I do, because it was sort of a subversion of romance, and I don't mind romance as a theme, that, hey, you can get someone to fuck with if you really want to. I mean fuck in the romantic sense. Romantic fucking, you know where I'm coming from. It was a subversion of that, though, because it was about familial love, and even beyond that, just the idea that love that doesn't involve fucking people can have value, which is something I personally appreciate a lot, and I think on its own, that would be a really good, unique theme, but the fact that it started off making the audience think it was going to be about romance, and then turned into, hey, look, that's what the theme really is, I thought that that just stood out to me a whole lot more. I think it made the message really powerful, and I really don't even think it's much of a contest. I think Frozen gets the point on that one. Now we're coming to some difficult territory, though, because we have music. I really liked the music in both of these movies. They had great soundtracks. At the same time, I have to acknowledge that I did have problems with the soundtracks in both of these movies, in that compared to earlier Disney movies, not all of them, but a lot of earlier Disney movies, I think that Frozen and Moana both feel a little bit too simplistic in their music, and I know it might have something to do with the trends of today's pop hits, and maybe they just want to make these songs really memorable, and they think, alright, well, if we make them a little bit easier and more repetitive on the air, then it'll be more of a hit. I get that. I don't think it's been too much of a problem, though, honestly. It's just something that I've noticed seeping into the soundtracks of Disney musicals lately. I'm just thankful to have Disney musicals, honestly. But if I had to compare these soundtracks, it's tricky, because Frozen, I feel, did a better job of being compositionally interesting. I feel that the music, in terms of the notes and where things are taken in terms of chord progression, I found that much more fascinating to listen to. I found it a more interesting musical experience. But Moana had something else going for it that Frozen didn't, is that it had a beat to its music. They borrowed a lot from Polynesian music, and while this kind of hurt the music in terms of being as compositionally interesting as Frozen's music, it really helped the music in terms of shit that I can bop to. And that really does matter to me. I think it's really important to be able to jam out to music like this. So I loved that you could jam out to the music in Moana, and I loved that the music in Frozen was more interesting. And I think the melodies were a little bit better in Moana because they had this sort of pulse to it. They had a lot of syncopation that I really appreciated, and you didn't get as much of that in Frozen. I gotta give the point to Frozen, though. Okay, I can't jam to Frozen's music quite as much, but I really can enjoy listening to it. I really can, because musically, it's very interesting to me, and it's more interesting to me than Moana's music. They're both great soundtracks, but I think when push comes to shove, I would rather have a musical experience where I feel very wholly engaged and entertained, more so than a musical experience where I can really groove to something. So, that brings us to story, and my camera can only film roughly 10-minute takes at a time, so am I going to be able to get through story in the estimated 1 minute and 30 seconds I have left? I can try. This is going to be a really hard point, though, so I might have to cut. Alright. Frozen had a very unique story. I feel like you couldn't exactly predict what was going to happen, but I think that almost worked to its disadvantage sometimes, because while it was different, sometimes it felt a little bit complicated and confusing. You were just kind of questioning, okay, well, where is this going? And I do think separately that some parts of the plot were just a little bit lame and could have been tweaked a little bit more. I think Moana had a much more clear and concise plot. You were never questioning it. You knew what you were expecting, and while that's sort of a detriment, at the same time, it's good to have a clear goal and a clear plot. It really helps push things along. And in terms of creativity, I feel like Moana employed a bit more creativity. I think both stories had some great set pieces and sequences, but I feel the ones in Moana stood out a little bit more in terms of being inventive. But which one was better? It was... I'm totally just gonna edit here because I know that this fucking alarm's gonna go off soon and I cannot film for this long. Oh my god! It was Frozen! Oh... I kind of feel guilty saying that because I really liked Moana. But here's the thing about Frozen, is that yes, it has a plot that feels a little odder to me, but I think that's why I like it more, because when I think of which movie I really want to see again, if I had to pick one, I'd go with Frozen, because the fact that its plot is a little bit odd is what makes it compelling to me. And I'm not saying it's odd like, oh my gosh, it's so unconventional and bizarre and weird. No, it's just not as clear-cut as Moana's plot. You can look at Frozen and you think, oh, well, that's interesting. This sister is kind of a villain and she wants to be alone. Okay. And like, oh, well, look at, she's not the princess, but she's becoming a main character. And oh, wait, they're going away from the castle and her sister that wants to be isolated? Well, now what are they going to do? And then, of course, the kind of lame, kind of saw it coming, but the twist with the true love and the stuff with the theme, it was just all more compelling to me. I have to admit it. Frozen is the movie that I would want to see more so than Moana. So, I think Frozen is better than Moana. That said, the fact that it was so difficult for me to come to this decision is really saying something about Disney animation these days. I had to spend days thinking this out because the movies are so different and they're so good in their own right. They really are. It's very difficult to put one next to the other because they do so many things differently. And that's a great thing. And I really hope it's just as difficult to do this with the next Disney musical down the line. That's my opinion though, folks. That's all from me. Now get the fuck out of my house!